We start. Okay, so in the remainder of the time available, we can make sure we finish up on the notes for this week. So let me go back to the chapter 16 note. No, that's the right of the class. Go here, go to methodology, go to chapter 6. And so we got through most of this, I think, or got maybe through all of it at the last class. So maybe we don't need to spend much time on it here. Yeah, we got through most of this at the last, all of this at the last class, so we don't need to go over it again. But maybe so were some other files to show you how this information is this qualitative research approach is significant. Here's again, make sure I share the screen. Here's a news report highlighting how this is again a press release from a university. It states here, this is from a few years ago, that these two professors, Dr. Charles McKinney and Dr. Marcia Waltman, were presented Rhodes College's highest faculty honors for teaching and research today at the college's annual awards convocation held on campus. And so I will not go through it here all, but just to show you that they got a teaching award. And it concludes this press release for everybody to learn that Professor Walton has published and presented her research with current and former students. Dozens of these students have pursued doctorates as a result of her mentoring. Walton's recent book, Conflict Narratives in Middle Childhood, The Social, Emotional, and Moral Significance of Story Sharing, is a culmination of many of the narrative research projects, hooray, narrative research, she has conducted over the last 20 years with her students. So I was assigned pro in the debate because somebody else chose con. I could have argued con as well as argued pro. So always keep that in mind. Whenever I do these debates, I'm not doing them because I necessarily believe the position I'm taking. I was assigned that position. And so partly because I don't want you to believe that it's my job to tell you the truth. Like I am God, I know what is true, and I'm going to tell you what is true. You yourself have to develop and refine your thoughts and ideas. So I think I made a pretty good argument for pro in the debate today. And what I said was not necessarily wrong, but it's not always, of course, not the complete story. And you can see from this report here that narrative projects, they can be really influential. I emphasize being influential. And that's a true point that I made regarding the need to persuade policymakers. I remember when I first got into the question of how to teach public policy analysis course, which is typically often a requirement in many political science programs. You have to take a class in public policy analysis. There's a big fight among political scientists about how to do those kinds of classes. And one well-known professor at the University of Pittsburgh, who's still there, I better not mention his name, he's a big quantifiable research, quantifiable data guy, quantitative research person. He told me, if you're going to teach public policy analysis, it should be econometric analysis. How do you measure the dollars and cents of public policies and alternative public policies and new public policies that you're proposing? You've got to show how much it costs, how much profit and benefit it will generate if you want to talk to policymakers, because that's pretty much the only terms they're going to understand. And you have to show how they can use that evidence to get reelected in terms of persuading voters to vote for them. But on the other hand, you can see there's a lot of benefit that comes from being a good storyteller. Narrative research projects are about storytelling or restoring. That's a theme in the Cresswell and Poth book. And we all love to read a good story. We all like to see and hear a good story. So, and there are all sorts of cases or examples like that, where somebody who does a case study or a narrative study about the experiences of being poor, or about environmental damage, that have written those kinds of they made those kind of publications that have tremendous influence on people, because they illustrate the real concrete experiences of people suffering pollution or suffering poverty or suffering racism. And those are the things society remembers. They get awards for aesthetic quality. They get awards because of their impact. It's not quantifiable research data that people remember. Oh yes, I remember that research project that was done at the University of Michigan back in 1954. Oh, that had no. What they remember is Rachel. What's the name of that author who wrote the book Silent Spring, about the tremendous costs and consequences of pollution on people's lives, or the feminist writers who wrote about the experiences of women who are not able to pursue their career dreams because of stereotypes of the rightful place, the proper place of women in society. We remember those books. We remember those authors. I can't remember them right now, but I can find them. Those are the books. Those are the authors that people remember. They don't remember research projects done with quantitative data, although they might be really important, really influential. So, and that means also you have to be a good communicator. You have to be a good writer. You have to be you able to, when people read your reports and your stories and your research, they enjoy it. People want to enjoy what they're reading. People don't like to read lots of numbers, typically. I mean, they will, but if you can tell a story, a narrative that really resonates with people's own emotional needs and experiences, you're going to be more influential. Okay, so and this illustrates this kind of research. So and some other news events that have illustrated some of the themes earlier on in the class. This is something from the New York Times. And of course, there's been lots of discussion about Elon Musk. And Elon Musk wants to purchase Twitter for what, $44 billion. And this is an article from a week and a half ago, highlighting again an aspect about American culture, that America tends to emphasize or idealize the individuals who master nature, who don't adapt to nature, that somehow it's the individual tech genius or business mogul or an entrepreneur who masters the universe. This, of course, is illustrated not just perhaps in American media, but everywhere. Everybody knows who Steve Jobs was, the person who created Apple, who led Apple. Everybody knows who Elon Musk is because of the credit he gets for Tesla and the space program. And this is an article in the New York Times, again, highlighting how we idealize these founders with brilliant ideas, but triumph often results from business savvy combined with imagination. That Elon Musk or Steve Jobs or Jeff Bezos could not have done what they had done unless they had a support group, unless they had people whose names you don't know, who made it possible to translate their great ideas into reality, right? It's practically an insult in Silicon Valley to say that an executive extremely capable at running a company. Like, oh, you know how to run a company. Well, you're a bureaucrat. Inventors, not great managers, are often the ones celebrated in technology. We imagine mad scientists bringing to life their visions of the great first personal computers, software that organizes all the websites in the world, and cool electric cars, right? This is the browsers. Turning an idea into a viable and lasting business is dull by comparison. That companies will give more power to business operatives over inventors is a constant fear among technologists. The concern is understandable. Innovation is essential and tough to sustain now that technology is a mammoth industry. But the fixation on an individual's ingenuity above all other abilities is a selective memory of tech history. Triumph is often the result of imagination combined with obsessive business savvy. Steve Jobs and Jeff Bezos are respected for their technical imagination, but also their supremacy in business strategy, marketing, or ability to unite people behind a shared vision. And again, it just highlights again this notion that great ideas are almost never enough on their own. Strong leaders also need pragmatism and other skills beyond dreaming. And the way that technology is infusing everything now means that the myth of the genius tech inventor staying in the way of progress. And so this looks like it's a review of a book. this writer, who is this writer? This is Shira Ovide. I've been thinking of this because I started reading my colleague Trip Mickle's new book, which explores the tensions between Apple's head and its heart in the decades since Jobs died. Apple's chief executive, Tim Cook, is the head, the whiz at manufacturing details. Johnny Ive was the design genius heart who helped Jobs make computers fun and shape the modern smartphone. I've stopped working at Apple full-time in 2019, and in Tripp's telling, complained that technocrats and accountants were sucking Apple of its soul. And so you can read the rest of this article just to highlight how the lone genius is a powerful myth because it has a grain of truth, she said, but it also ignores other skills and the collaboration necessary to bring any idea to life. And of course, and that's a theme in the Trompenaars and Hampton Turner book, right? That because American influence and culture is so predominant, we emphasize these great individuals, but these other support systems are critically important to make these individual innovations come to life. And these other societies, particularly Asian societies, are more likely to emphasize this collaborative function. Even Thomas Edison had many people in his laboratory. This person, Margaret O'Mara, a University of Washington professor who researches the history of technology companies. Tripp's book makes it clear that Apple, as we know it today, would not exist without Cook and other technocrats. Developing the iPhone was a once-in-a-lifetime accomplishment, but it took obsessive nerds like Cook to ensure that Apple could manufacture hundreds of millions of perfect copies year after year and not go broke. And it just goes on here. Sure, technology requires a creative thinker who can come up with artificial intelligence code, virtual worlds of satellites that beam internet service to Earth. But the risk of sounding woo-woo, it also requires a curiosity about the complexity of people and the world, and ability to navigate institutional human inertia, and the persuasion skills to summon the collective will to pursue a brighter future. The power to invent is necessary, but it is not enough. So that's the conclusion. So my question to you is, please respond to the following statement. The more a society believes in the myth of the genius tech inventor like Elon Musk or Steve Jobs, the faster it will develop. Still, if the society glorifies and worships Elon, I mean, the way people report on Elon Musk is fascinating. I mean, commentators, they don't even in American commentary, they don't even use the term Elon Musk. They talk about Elon. What's Elon going to do? Elon, like he's a friend. Like Elon, he's an amazing guy, this Elon. Don't make an enemy of Elon. Don't fight with Elon. Elon, like he's my uncle, or he's amazing. Sure, we know support systems are important, but you can't do it without Elon and Steve and Jeff. You can't do it without those guys. And the more a society believes in the myth of the genius tech inventor, the faster it will develop. Is South Korea an example of that? I mean, is South Korea looking for the Korean Jeff Bezos, the South Korean Elon Musk? So can you vote before, as the last thing we do here, can you vote on whether or not you agree, how you respond to that statement? And of course it shut me down. So I got to log back in. Then we go log in and we go to methodology. And so do you think that the more that a society believes in that myth of the genius tech inventor, the faster that society will develop? And so you can vote, please vote. And neutral cannot decide. And that's all for today. So bye. Okay.